I thought today we would talk about Star Wars: The Old Republic Epic Collection. This is number 4 in the Epic Collection run of the Old Republic. It's part of the Star Wars Legends canon, which means that it's the previous Dark Horse stories, which it's part of the previous Dark Horse stories, which Disney, now they own Marvel, have said don't actually count towards story canon, but they still exist as legends. So we're not erasing the back catalogue. We're just not saying they're part of the new movies and all the stories going forward. These are some really good stories. We'll delve into ones I like more than others in this particular Epic collection. But just to say, these are also going to be collected in omnibuses that will be released in the near future. They've already done it with the Empire Epic Collections, Empire run of stories, by putting essentially what was in the first 2 or 3 Empire Epic Collection books into an omnibus, and they're going to do the same with this. Whether I would buy the Old Republic one, I don't know, because these stories didn't quite hit as much with me as the Empire ones did. But look, enough about other books. Let's go have a look at this one and see what we think. Okay, so Star Wars Epic Collection, The Old Republic. This is part of the Legends series. As I explained in the intro to the video, that's old stories that they no longer consider are canon. Now, this is number 4 in the Epic Collection line, but they don't necessarily come out in order. You can see that it collects this group of stories here on the back. Got Star Wars: The Old Republic 1 to 6, Lost Sons 1 to 5, Lost Tribe of the Sith, Spiral 1 to 5, and then just some bits and bobs from Star Wars Tales and Star Wars Visionaries. What's nice about these Epic collections is they're always put together with a bit of care, sometimes more care than the omnibuses, to be honest. You get a nice list of other Epic collections available there for you to just see if you want, which I like. You get a good contents page in every Epic collection, which again is good and is missing sometimes from the omnibuses, and you get a little bit of lead in to explain what the story is. Something that I constantly have trouble getting my head around, and it's annoying, is that I keep having to place this thousands of years before the events of the films, and it's not the biggest problem necessarily, but it just keeps coming back into my mind. Oh, what about this? How's this leading to that? And you realise it's so far removed that it's not really going to lead to much relevant to the films. But anyway, first one you see is a story involving some political manoeuvrings with the Sith, and you've got this chap who thinks he's on a mission for one thing. I'm trying not to spoil the story here because they're short standalone story arcs. He finds out some truths, let's say, and he has to challenge what he knows. It's an okay story. It took me a minute to get into it, to be honest, work out what was going on. I don't think it's because I didn't have any knowledge of what was going on beforehand. I think it's just it took a bit more time to sink in what was happening and to sort of absorb who the characters were and what they were doing and where they were placed in the universe. When I read the Empire Epic Collections, it was a bit easier because it's all sort of in the timeline we're familiar with, or not timeline, the period of time I should say, that we're familiar with. So you can place things a bit better. It just took a minute for my brain to adjust, but it was an okay story. As I say, there was a nice sort of political twist at the end, and you get introduced into some fun characters. The artwork's really good in here. It's consistent, it's clear, which I like. Probably, if you've watched my other videos, I'm not a fan of things that get too wishy-washy. You have this character here who's a Jedi, and she develops a relationship with a Republic trooper. I won't say where that goes or if it goes anywhere at all, but it was nice to see that story, and she has a future in this book as well. Now let's just move on. a lot of this book is spent with them negotiating and wrangling for position with the Sith Empire. What you do have in this book as well is between the two story arcs that are in there, that there are time jumps, and they don't make it clear, or at least I didn't find it clear initially, that there had been these great big time jumps, and it becomes confusing at first when you're trying to place, does this story happen immediately after the other one? What's occurred? Then all of a sudden you've got characters using the same names, but they're quite aged up, and you think, okay, right, so what, 30, 40 years has passed, something like that. And it would have just helped if there was a little lead in, or just a note to say X amount of years later, or this story follows so many years later. But again, you get to see the Sith. There's a story that involves a planet of the Sith who are... A Sith Lord was marooned on the planet ages ago. A culture sprang up on the planet based around the Sith. It was separated from everyone else, and whilst they're not an evil culture, they're sort of isolated, and they warp the Sith views and religion to their own needs over time, which is a nice story. And then eventually, when they wake up the Sith Lord, they think that he's going to mirror their views and want to be their friend, and he's like, nah mate, you don't get it, you've misunderstood this, I'm not about helping you lot. Here he is, he's all about helping himself. He says that's not the way of the Sith, and it's quite nice to see them get their comeuppance. I am very much shortening that story there. There are these nice creatures as well that he introduces, which is good, because obviously Star Wars is about creatures and things like that. But that was a story that I thought wasn't going to be that entertaining, and then actually was. So I don't think this is the best epic collection for the Star Wars stuff, but it's certainly enjoyable once I got my head into gear reading it. See, this is what character I mentioned earlier, Jedi Knight Seitel Shan. You get an explanation of what actually went on and where the stories took her in the timeline here, and you also get like a key, an explanation of the locations they go to and who the characters are. It's a shame this wasn't placed throughout the book or towards the front of the book, so I had a little bit more of an understanding what I was reading, but then I appreciate it might take something away from the story because of spoilers. And you get some art in the back as well. Okay, so that was the book. I say some of the stories were okay, a little bit confusing with the timelines. I have to keep telling myself that these are set thousands of years in the past, and then you've got time jumps in this book. You do have a sort of character key explanation in the back, but I really wish that was in the front of the book, or there was at least a little bit of timeline explanation when you entered into a new set of the stories, so you could work out how much time had passed. Otherwise you're reading it for the first few pages and you're going, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden you twig, but you've wasted a lot of, say, enjoyment and time that you would have otherwise spent looking at the book and reading the story and absorbing it, trying to work out where it was placed. My only gripe with it, the stories are nice, they're not great. I think the Empire stories were better for me, but look, if you're a person who wants to try out these Star Wars books and want something a little bit more in depth, let's say, than the current Marvel runs are, this is certainly for you. It's a cost-effective way to get hold of them. I don't think I'll be buying the omnibus version of this. As I said, I got this for $12.50 online after just some lucky shopping and browsing around. We'll see what the price of the omnibus is and whether or not that represents any better value than buying a full set of the epic collections. But that's up to you and how you manage your comic book library, let's say. I should also point out that a while ago, if you watched this channel, you'd have seen that all of these epic collections were on sale on Comixology for a very low price, and I did get a few on there which I have double dipped on now, but it's worth keeping an eye out online for them, because they do tend to just drop them in price when there's a movie release or something, and it's worth paying attention. they do tend to drop them in price online when there's a movie release, so it's worth paying attention in that respect. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about the book. Please feel free to like and subscribe.